Hi everybody, a very warm welcome to thorough newspaper analysis for the 18th of April 2024. Now let's quickly proceed and have a look at the pointers of discussion for today. So first of all, for the editorial segment, we have an article, a very interesting one indeed, which featured in The Hindu. Now the title of this article is Reforms Which Are Needed in the Voting Procedure. I felt that this article is particularly important because now you know that our country it is observing a festival of democracy, which is the Lok Sabha elections, and we know that it becomes all the more important for a democracy like our country, which is considered to be one of the largest democracies, one of the biggest democracies of the world. So with the election season in its full swing and the electorates and the people who are very excited to cast their right to vote and select their representatives, I felt it is important for us to sort of have an understanding of the kind of voting procedure that we follow and the legalities around it. So let's say, what are the challenges to the EVM machine? When did this system come into existence in our country? Then, what are some of the advantages of it? And what is the way forward? So in essence, this article is going to give you a very crisp sort of a content for your essay writing. Secondly, we talk about the news update, and this is going to be followed by the legal news for the day. So without further ado, let's start with the article. And before we do that, for the first time voters, this is, I would like to take this opportunity to, sort of brief you on how does an EVM look like, what is the manner in which the vote is cast, and what are the equipments which are used, very briefly, like without getting into a lot of technicalities. Just for the purpose of understanding our article, I felt it is important to understand this. So here what you see on this picture is there are three equipments. Now students, please note these two equipments, they are put in a ballot in a cubicle so as to ensure voter secrecy. So suppose a voter is coming here, casting his or her vote here. So if a cubicle is built around it, so then there is secrecy of, on which is the candidate in respect of which the vote is cast. Now this machine, it is the ballot paper or the mechanized ballot paper. And this is something called the VVPAT. We'll discuss about it later. And this machine, it is with the executive officers, as in those who are, involved in carrying out the duty of conducting these elections, those who are representing the state machinery. So here, if you enter the room, you will find 2-3 people who are sitting and they are, observing certain procedural formalities. Like one would check your documents, your national ID and all of those. The other person would put that ink mark on your fingertip and follow, so and so forth. These are some of the procedural formalities that are carried on. Now, then you come to the third person who is going to press this button. Once this button is pressed, then you will see a light here, a green light on this machine, which is indicative of the fact that now it is ready for you to cast your vote. Now, on this paper, what you see is this. Here, you will see the name of the party candidate, and here the symbol of the party concerned. So suppose if I want to cast the vote for a candidate who is, marked at number 4, then what do? I press this blue button. Once I do that, a red light, it gets turned on and there's a beep sound followed by the light. So this means my vote has been registered and logged in this machine. Then this is very important. Here on this VVPAT, this is a transparent window. For a span of 7 seconds, a slip will be displayed here. So as in when I cast my vote, a slip is generated on which I can see 3-4 information pointers, which are what? The name of the candidate who I chose and cast my vote for. Then you will see the election symbol of the party concerned, like K. This is just for demo purpose. So K, it is written here. Then there is also a number which is generated with each slip. Now, once the 7-second span, it is exhausted, then the slip, it gets detached and it drops down here. This essentially is, you can say, it's a box which stores all these slips which drop down, and it is a sealed cover, sealed sort of a box. So I hope this is clear. We cast our vote here, and this is a verification process. So I can be, assured that I can verify that the person that I wanted to cast my vote for, I've actually cast my vote for that candidate, and the vote has actually, been registered in the name of that person alone. So that's done, and now let's go to the article. So here, let's see the context as to why this article. See, very recently, the Supreme Court has finally decided that it is going to hear all those petitions which are seeking 100% cross verification of the VVPAT slips, these slips that I showed you. So 100% cross verification of the VVPAT slips with vote count as per the EVM data. So what does the VVPAT, this term, stand for? It is Voter Verifiable Paper Audit Trail, and EVM stands for the electronic voting machines. Now, a legit question might arise as to, when was this EVM mechanism introduced in our country? Did we follow it right from the first general election? So the answer here, please notice, no. For the first two general elections, which is the general election of 1952, followed by 1957, a separate box was placed for each candidate with their election symbol. So let's say there are three political parties which have, raised their candidates to contest for the election from a particular constituency. Now there is a polling station, vote casting station, which is set up. In that station, you will find three boxes, and on each box you will find the party symbol. Let's say A, B, C. So if I were to cast my vote in favor of the candidate belonging to party B, then what I was required to do, I would have then dropped a blank ballot paper into the box of the candidate whom I wanted to cast a vote for. So I would have dropped this blank ballot paper in box B. So this was the procedure in 1952 and 57. Then came the third general election, and we switched this process a bit. So what we did was ballot papers with the names of the candidate and their respective political party symbols, they were introduced, and the voter was now to affix a stamp on the candidate of their choice. So against the name of the candidate of their choice. As far as EVMs are concerned, their introduction on trial basis, it came about in 1982 in the Assembly constituency of Paravur in Kerala. They were deployed in all booths during the assembly elections in Tamil Nadu, in Kerala, Puducherry, and West Bengal in the year 2001. So in early 2000s, the spread of EVMs, it increased. The Supreme Court in various judgments has upheld the validity of using an electronic voting machine, which is an EVM, in these sort of elections. Then came the year 2004, when the general election to the Lok Sabha, it was conducted, and EVMs, they were used in all the 543 constituencies. So then EVM was uniformly used across the country in all the constituencies from which we had to choose our MPs for the Lok Sabha. Then came the year 2013, when another pivotal moment came in this EVM mechanism. So in the case of Subramanian Swamy versus Election Commission of India, the Honorable Top Court of our country, it ruled that a paper trail, it is an indispensable requirement for ensuring fair and free election. And as a result, the 2019 general elections, 2019 elections, they had the EVMs backed with 100% VVPAT slips in all constituencies. So the Supreme Court here essentially highlighted that, there should be a mechanism of some sort whereby the voters can be, they can be assured, they can re-verify that the vote, it is cast properly in favor of the candidate that they actually wanted to choose. So that was highlighted by the Supreme Court. In 2019, we had the VVPAT mechanism. So now let's see what is the international practice scenario here so far as the voting procedure is concerned. So, when I was reading on this issue and way back also, I was of the opinion that, we might have moved towards mechanization. So EVMs would have been the norm, and then paper ballot might have been the exception. But contrary to my belief, in fact, across the world, paper ballots, they are prominent, and these electronic voting machines, they were in use, but now have been discontinued for a large part of the world. So many Western democracies, they continue to have paper ballots for their elections. Countries, let's say like England, France, the Netherlands, and the US, they've discontinued the use of the EVMs for their general and federal elections. Then this discontinuation, it came about after trial for, let's say, 2 decades. Then in Germany, the Supreme Court of the country, it declared the use of EVMs, it was unconstitutional. And this unconstitutionality, it came about in the year 2009. On the other hand, there are some countries like Brazil where EVM use, it is intact. Currently, it is being used. Among our neighbors, Pakistan does not use an EVM machine. Bangladesh experimented for the use of EVM in a few constituencies in the year 2018, but then it reverted back to the paper ballots for the general elections of 2024. Now let's see what are some of the prominent features that these EVMs they offer, as a result of which they are adopted and vouched for in, let's say, a country like India. So these machines, they bring significant benefit to the electoral process. How? Let's have a look at 4 pointers or 4 arguments, so to say. You can also, keep a crux of these arguments in your mind for your essay purposes. So first of all, EVM, it has virtually eradicated booth capturing, the practice of booth capturing, by limiting the rate of votes which can be cast in a minute. And what is the rate? Casting is limited to 4 votes per minute. Thus, significantly, it has increased the time which is required for stuffing false votes. Secondly, invalid votes that were a bane of paper ballots and also a bone of contention during the counting process, they have been eliminated through these EVM machines. Thirdly, considering the size of our electorate, that is the size of our, the size of those who are eligible to vote, the voting population, which is close to 1 billion, the use of EVMs is eco-friendly because it is, reduce the consumption of papers. Then fourthly and finally, it provides administrative convenience for the polling officers on the day of the casting of vote, and it has made the counting process of the votes so cast very easier and faster and error-free. So however, there are mechanisms to uphold the integrity of EVM and the VVPAT process, because there are a couple of doubts which have been raised. So therefore, there are mechanisms to uphold the integrity of these processes. What are those mechanisms? These include random allocation of EVMs to the polling stations, the polling booths, and conduct of a mock casting of vote to display the correctness of these machines before commencement of the actual casting of vote. And lastly, the serial number of EVMs along with the total votes which are cast shared with agents of the candidates to verify the same at the time of counting of votes. So despite these advantages that we just saw and that were listed in this article, there are a couple of doubts which have been raised by, a lot of political parties and also from the civil society. That is to say, let's say, people who are in public policy domain or those who are running NGOs. So they've been voicing their concerns. And one of the foremost repetitive concern and allegation surrounding EVMs is that they're susceptible to hacking. Now, to counteract this argument, Election Commission of India has time and again clarified that these machines, they are stand-alone devices. By stand-alone devices, what do we mean is, let's say we have a calculator. So that is a stand-alone device. It does not have connectivity with any external device. So the Election Commission essentially is saying that an EVM is also a stand-alone device like a calculator, and therefore it does not have any connectivity with any external device, and hence it is free from any kind of external hack. The sample size for matching of the EVM count with the VVPAT slips at present is 5 per assembly constituency or segment. And why is this is a problem? Because see, it is not based on any scientific criteria, and it may fail to detect the defective EVMs during the counting of the votes. The present process, it also allows for booth-wise polling behaviors to be identified by various political parties, and therefore there is a chance of influencing this profiling of the voter behavior for intimidation or for those who are casting votes. Now a question might arise as to we've seen the problem areas. So what is the way forward? What can be done to correct these errors or to fill these gaps and these lapses? So in a democracy, each citizen must be able to comprehend and verify the steps in the election process without any special technical knowledge. And especially, let's say, if we were to talk about the country, our very own country. So our population is very diverse. So on the one hand, we have reached the extreme corners of the world. We've shown our mantle. We've proved ourselves. But at this other end, it is also our reality that a large chunk of our population is illiterate. That they are not very tech savvy. Technical know-how is not their forte. So therefore, it is very important that whenever they are exercising their right to cast vote, which is so essential, because our entire democracy, it is based on this foundation of casting vote. We choose our representatives who in turn represent us in the parliament and then make the laws and frame the policy. So our country is governed by the policy which is framed by those who we choose. So therefore it becomes all the more important that technological divide should not be a reason as to why each and everyone is not equally given an opportunity to cast well reasoned votes. So therefore, 100% use of VVPAT, it has enabled the voters to verify their votes, and the votes are recorded as cast. So the introduction of VVPAT, it is a welcome step. Why? Because now I'm in a position to verify whether my vote is recorded as cast and it is correctly cast. However, few additional steps they are needed to be adopted to make the entire process more robust and ensure that the votes they are counted as recorded. So 100% match of EVM count with the VVPAT slips, it would be unscientific and cumbersome. The sample for matching the EVM and the VVPAT slips, it should be decided in a scientific manner rather than what we currently do, which is the sample size for matching is it is 5% per assembly constituency or segment. So the writer of this article is saying that we should rather have a scientific approach in dividing each state into large regions and as suggested by the expert. So in case of even a single error, the VVPAT slips should be counted fully for the concerned region and form the basis for results. So this would instill a statistically significant confidence in the counting process, and therefore, all the voices around doubts and manipulation of the counting process, they can be tackled. Further, in order to provide a degree of cover for voters at the booth level, totalizer machines, they can be introduced that would aggregate votes in 15 to 20 EVMs before revealing the candidate-wise count. So I hope this article, proves helpful for all of us. And now we proceed to the next segment of of national news for today. So the first update in the national news category is this. Neobank Revolut India, it receives in principle approval for PPI license from the regulator for banking sector, which is the RBI. Tiger Global and SoftBank bagged Neobank Revolut India, it has received an in-principle approval from the Reserve Bank of India for what purpose? To issue prepaid payment instruments, which is called the PPI, including prepaid cards and wallets. Next up is the update in the segment of science and tech. IISc scientists, they developed sustainable hydrogel to remove microplastics from water. Microplastics, essentially, they are particles less than 5 millimeters in size. So scientists at the Indian Institute of Science, which is IISc, Bangalore, they have developed a sustainable hydrogel to remove these microplastic to remove microplastics from water, addressing the global issue of plastic pollution. The hydrogel, made up of a unique polymer network, they can bind and degrade microplastics using UV light irradiation. Next up is this update. India's trade performance in March 2024. Let's have a look. India's goods exports surged to a 12-month high, and this is at US $41.68 billion. marking a significant achievement despite a slight decrease of 0.67% when compared to the previous years. Notably, the goods trade deficit narrowed to $15.6 billion, the lowest in 11 months. Moving on, MP leads in driving the centre's green credit program. So the state of Madhya Pradesh, it has registered a lead in the implementation of the program by the central government, which is called Green Credit Program. The Green Credit Program, it has approved the plantation of trees in over 500 land parcels covering 4,980 hectares across 10 states in the past 2 months. Next up is an update in the category of important days, and it is about the Himachal Pradesh Day 2024. So on 15th of April 2024, we celebrate Himachal Pradesh Day. So why is the celebration on 15th of April? See, this is celebrated on 15th of April to remember the day when the state became a part of India after independence. This day, it marks the anniversary of Himachal Pradesh becoming a Chief Commissioner's province in 1948, which is an important step in the path of its becoming a state, a full-fledged state. Now, this is some sort of a factual trivia about Himachal Pradesh, and this is my question, and I would highly encourage all of you to put the answers in the comment section. Himachal Pradesh, it is home to the highest cricket ground globally in the world. So I would want all of you to please write down the name of this cricket ground, which is the highest cricket ground globally, and it is home to the state of Himachal Pradesh, or Himachal Pradesh that is home to this cricket ground. It is sitting at a height of 8,018 feet above the sea level. The state, it is also rich in biodiversity with more than 350 animal species and 450 bird species. Over the time, Himachal Pradesh, it has become a prosperous state, and it is also famous as the Apple State of India. So this might also be a question, and the answer is Apple State of India is Himachal Pradesh. It is home to the highest cricket ground globally, the name of which you are going to give. Okay. Now we proceed to the international segment for today. With this is the first update. Russia's successful Angara A5 rocket test launch. Russia, it has successfully tested its Angara A5 space rocket for the first time, and this happened on 11th of April 2024. Russia launched this project in the year 1991, shortly after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, with the goal of creating a domestically produced launch vehicle. Next up is an update from Singapore. Singapore PM Lee, he hands power to his successor Wong. Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, he will now hand over his power as the Prime Minister to his successor Lawrence Wong. Wong is currently the Deputy Prime Minister and the Finance Minister of Singapore, and he has been Prime Minister in waiting since 2022. Now we have the two legal updates for the day, which is one from the High Court of Punjab and Haryana. This is also an important update when it comes to the concept of concurrent sentences and the consecutive running of sentences in the CRPC. And next up is an update from the Bombay High Court. So let's see what is the update before Punjab and Haryana High Court. The High Court, it stated and observed that court should not order concurrent running of sentences after serial offenders who are accused of committing heinous crimes. Now, let's first discuss the concept of concurrent and consecutive running of sentences. Suppose there is a person and he committed 4 offenses in a series or in the same transaction, correct? Now, he is tried in the same trial and he is given different sentences with respect to each of these offenses. He is found guilty for all of these offenses. And let's say for the first offense, he's been given the sentence of 2 years in imprisonment. For second, it is 3. For third, it is 4. And for the fourth, it is 5. So there is a question which may arise in our minds as to, will these sentences run concurrently? That is to say, when the time his 2-year sentence start, will his 3-year sentence, 4-year sentence, 5-year sentence start at the same time? Or will it start once the 2-year sentence is complete? Then the 3-year sentence would start. Once the 3-year sentence is complete, then the 4-year sentence is going to start. Once the 4-year sentence is complete, then the 5-year sentence is going to start. Now, this process, when all of these sentences start at the same time, that is called the concurrent running of sentences. But when the sentence runs after the first, one after the other, as in when one sentence completes, the other starts, that is called the consecutive running of sentences. Now, the order of, which sentence with respect to which offense is going to run first, which is going to be followed by that is the discretion of the courts, and the court decides the order. Now, the prominent provision, as far as my recollection works, it is section number 31 of the CRPC, which says that this one after the other consecutive running, it is the norm, while the exception is the concurrent running. And this is also a PT question which is often asked. You may confirm it once. So what the High Court here has said is that the courts should not order for concurrent running of sentences. That is, all the sentences run parallelly at the same time in case where the person is a serial offender, and that too for committing heinous crimes. So he's a serial offender and he has committed a heinous crime, a grave crime. The court observed, please mark this should be High Court. The High Court observed, and I would like to quote that out, a sentencing policy which is unusually mild and sympathetic in its operation, it would have a disastrous effect on the society and would do more harm than good to public confidence in the efficacy of law. It is therefore the duty of every court to award appropriate sentence having regard to the nature of the offense. Our sentencing policy should be such that it is balanced. It is not very sympathetic. It is not very harsh. It should be in proportion and with the severity of the crime concerned. Therefore, in cases where the person is a serial offender, and that too for committing heinous crimes, the courts would do well in not wanting to exercise their powers under section 427, 402.7 or 27, so to say, subsection 1 CRPC, to order concurrent running of sentences, the court added. In this regard, the court cited the case of Joginder Singh versus State of Punjab by saying that the power it was exercised in this case, as the accused therein had been convicted for the same offense in 5 different cases by separate judgments on the same day and by the same court. So this is not important for our purpose. This is in response to a contention by one of the parties. So what we need to take home from this judgment is this observation and this provision of law. The name of this case is Brij Mohan alias Brijesh, also known as Brijesh, versus State of Haryana. Now we come to the Bombay High Court verdict. So here the Bombay High Court has said that ED cannot record statement at night by depriving persons right to sleep. It leads to impairment of cognitive skills. This is another interesting update. So the Bombay High Court recently criticized the Enforcement Directorate for its practice whereby it recorded statements of persons who were summoned under Section 50 of the PMLA late at night. And the court reprimanded these officers who did this summoning and the recording late at night while emphasizing the right to sleep as a basic human requirement. The court observed that the right to sleep or right to blink, it is a basic human requirement. As much as non-providing the same, it violates a person's human rights. It affects a person's health. It may impair his mental faculties, cognitive skills, and so on and so forth. The said person, so summoned, cannot be deprived of his basic human right, which is the right to sleep, by the agency beyond a reasonable time. Here I have a question, and it would be absolutely amazing if some of you could come forward and maybe address the same in the comment section. There is a provision in the CRPC which talks about the power of police to require the presence of a person before the investigating officer or any person who is acting on the requisition of the investigating officer under section 161 to 160 and 161 to come forward and record their statement. So there are some safeguards which are given for some category of persons who purpose of recording their statement. Could you identify the categories of those persons? It would be absolutely great. For hint, refer to section 160 and 161 of the CRPC. So the name of this particular case is Ram Kotumal Israni versus the Directorate of Enforcement and others. So this has brought us to an end of our TNA. Thank you so much for being with us. The quiz link, as usual, would be given in the description itself. And I really hope that, this entire video, it proves absolutely helpful for all of us. So thank you for being with us. Have a wonderful day.